Hey, BJ O'Neill here with Business Coach Mastery with a free training all about solving lead gen, specifically mastering workshops to get clients. Now, probably don't have to explain to you in detail why workshops are so powerful, right? It's when someone has the microphone, if you will, when they're leading, guiding, teaching, talking to a group of people. By that 5 people, 8 people, 35 people, the transference of expertise is significant. However, there's a way to do them. There's a way to do them right, and then there's a way to master them. I'm a big believer in if you're going to do something, don't just halfway do it or do it just to check the box off and get it done. No, have the heart and the desire to master it. This prevents you from just dabbling. If you just dabble into strategies to help get clients, if you're just dabbling, you're likely going to get dabble-like results. I don't think you want that. I certainly don't. I'm sure you don't either. And so you want to have a mindset of mastering. And mastering just simply means that I know that as I start to do something, either A, for the first time, or maybe you've done something multiple times, but you've not applied a lot of strategy, deep thought, getting help, thinking further, reading up on it, listening. How can I get really, really good at this? Getting feedback, asking for help for those who do it better than you or who are doing it longer than you. And so while, yes, we can walk through the strategic and tactical needs of any one lead generation strategy, but beyond that, though, it starts with the mindset that I'm going to master this. And here's a hard truth. Some people master things faster than others, even with working so hard, being diligent, being consistent. And sometimes people do unlock the secret sauce, if you will, a lot sooner. And sometimes we don't know exactly why. But here's what I do know. If you're not consistent, if you don't have the right mindset, you're definitely not going to put yourself in a position to master that strategy. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a number of resources for you all about unlocking lead gen, helping you think about lead generation at a holistic level specific to different strategies. And I want to make sure that as you are thinking about growing your business coaching business, if you have started it and you're not really sure exactly how to put it all together, how to bridge the gap, if you will. My philosophy is there's basically around 8 strategies in totality that you're going to do as a business coach to engage and build relationships. And in my opinion, I think that you only really need to pick 2 of them. Now, it doesn't mean that after you do one of them for some time, you recognize that you're maybe better fit for another one. But that goes back to the whole dabbling thing, is that when you choose 2, there's just something about being able to, I'm going to really dedicate time, energy, and learning to master these 2. More than 2, it just gets hard. Now, maybe you can. I just haven't seen it done real well, and that's why we want to apply the mindset and the strategy of mastering. In this case, we're talking workshops. Okay, so here you go. Number 1, just the understanding. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you some strategies to think about. Maybe you've never thought about workshops. Maybe you've been resistant to doing workshops. Maybe you just have it just seems so, I don't even know how to, process all that. So I'm going to give you some strategic things to think about and then give you the tactical things that I can tell you if you don't do them, it's going to be hard, or things to avoid. If you do them, it's going to be hard. We'll go from there. Strategically, power of communication done well. And I will say that when you're mastering workshops, one of the things that you want to learn is the art form of speaking. Now, we're not talking about being in front of a sea of 5,000 people. In my experience, and what we teach in our Done For You system, is that actually a smaller crowd is more intimate. You can ask questions, get feedback, but regardless of that, you got to learn to be dedicated to understanding how to communicate. The reality, some people are naturally gifted. They have God-given gifts when it comes to communicating as a speaker, kind of like even your small group at your church. If you go to a small group, or depending upon how your church is structured, there are some that are just really gifted with communication. And so if you've never even thought about that before, I would encourage you, read some books, watch some tutorials, maybe take a class. Toastmasters is one of those. Likely a chapter in your local area. They're pretty much everywhere. And there's other ones like that as well. But you want to understand the art and the why behind communication. Now, I will also say, I'm not a believer in manipulation, meaning there is plenty of courses out there and people who really do teach from how to make people desire things. And I'm like, that's just not my style. Maybe if it's yours, whatever, it's just not mine. And I would just encourage you not to go down that road because I don't think that that's really building authentic relationships. We want to use the power of communication through workshops to build legitimate, authentic, long-lasting, deep relationships, adding value, showing how you can help solve some of their biggest challenges that are going on in their business, and so on. So even when you invite a stranger to a workshop and you've got 8 to 10 people in that room, they don't know who you are. The power of that ability for them to listen to you, for making eye contact, the body language, that's the reason why workshops are so significant. God created us. God created you. God created me. God created the way that we're wired. God created the way that the mind works. Here's what's really important about workshops, about how we are naturally wired from birth, is that when you are teaching and you're educating and you're helping people open up their mindset to possibility, things that they may not know, strategies, what happens is when you begin to make that connection, it is unpreventable when you do it correctly that chemicals get released into the bloodstream. And those chemicals begin to create signals inside a human about how we are, because of how we are interacting. And one of those is a chemical called oxytocin. It's just neuroscience, the way that we're created. Meaning, if you were to come to one of my workshops and I'm presenting some content, and you're kind of starting to feel like, okay, that's good. I'm learning something. I'm writing some things down. As that continues to build, and I'm just starting to lean, you are starting to lean into more of what I'm saying. Me as the facilitator, you as a business owner inside that workshop, oxytocin gets released, and this is what begins to happen naturally. You start to trust me. You start to feel good about me. You start to buy into me, the facilitator. You start to really get drawn and magnetized into what I'm saying. And it's all because of a natural chemical release. That's the power of why workshops are so incredible. Second chemical that gets released is dopamine. You're probably very familiar with dopamine. I get excited. It's the reward. And it's usually the aha zone. If you've ever heard of what the aha zone is, if you can imagine just for a moment, imagine my slide deck here for a second. You've got anxieties over here. You've got knowledge and skill over here, okay? Well, when we don't know anything, when we're unsure, when we're uneducated, especially about business growth for a business owner, typically anxieties are high. As we get skilled over here, these are going to go into, as I learn more, my anxiety goes down. My skill level and knowledge goes up, and then they cross paths in the middle called the aha zone. Well, when you're in a workshop and you're teaching, you're facilitating, and you're helping people find their aha zone, that's the wake up like, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't realize that, or wow, that exists that opportunity is there. I didn't know. That's what dopamine does. It hits, it fires, and I'm excited. And all of these, oxytocin and dopamine, just by themselves, other chemicals happen too, but those two alone blend together and create a uniqueness where someone's internally, mentally, what they're beginning to feel is, I want to know more. Think about that. That's the power of how God created you and God created me. Now, you can damage that by being a terrible speaker. You can damage that by just, being terribly prepared. You can damage that by just not, just being very aloof and not put together and whatever. And the reverse happens, called cortisol, which causes the stress hormone. And that's where, the wall goes up, trust goes down, the blockade happens. I don't want to hear anymore. Where's the exit door? What time is it? And those all things happen as well. And that's why you want to be prepared. That's why you want to master conversation. That's why you want to master teaching. That's why you want to master communication. It's not about you. It's about genuinely helping someone recognize what's the utmost of opportunity in their business. So that's the reason why workshops are so powerful, is because the way God created the mind, when we communicate correctly, people want to lean in and they want to know more, just because it's the way our I'm not a neuroscientist, obviously, the neural pathways work. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. So here's some tactical things to think about when you're creating your workshop. Number one, I believe in small numbers. Because remember, the purpose and the why behind doing a workshop for lead generation is to get clients. I am not referring to speaking on stages and building a brand for you. That's a different conversation. I'm referring to getting clients. So when you have 10 or less in the room, you're able to create intimacy of conversation. Number two, you want to make sure you have the right people in the room. Here's how you do it. A couple of ways. Meaning you want to have large enough businesses. If you're going to charge, the average coach charges around $2,000 to $2,500 a month for one-on-one coaching. Some charge $5,000, some charge $1,000 for newer coaches, but by and large, the $2,500 is around the average. Well, if you're wanting to work with businesses that at least are $500,000 in top line revenue or higher, or $1 million, or whatever that number is, and there's various reasons why you would want a certain size. You can't just invite anybody, because if you put wrong people in the room, they're either not going to be able to afford you, or they're just not the right fit all around. So getting the right people means I got to make sure that as I make my invites, I'm inviting the right people. Well, I don't know what their size of the business is. Well, I understand that, and I could do an entire training just on that. But here's the things to think about. Number one, I'm just going to use $500,000 in revenue as a baseline. If you want to make sure that you've got people in there at least $500,000 and higher, then you need to have on all of your communication of the event, it's the whole, hey, who's this for? Which you absolutely can put that. Who's this for? It's if you have a business and you're doing over $500,000 in top line revenue, this is for you kind of thing. This is best suited for. This is best fit for. Be really open about who this is best for, so that you don't get people in there and waste your time or theirs, for that matter. Another way to look at that is that when you've got a business that has probably at least 3 or 4 employees, you're probably good with that 500,000 or number. So another way to ask that question, who is this for? If you have a minimum of 3 to 4 employees, this is for you. All right. So those are just a couple of examples of how you can make sure that you're filling those seats with your right target. Another strategy that's important is that you don't just go and do one event. There's too much at risk to do one event. What do you mean, BJ? Here's what I mean. If you just do one, well, people's schedules are what they are. They may not can come to that, but they wanted to. And then what? Wait till 6 months later? So it's best to do one of two things. Either A, and again, we kind of coach and teach all this in our Done For You system. Either you're going to do them, 2 to 3 a month for several months in a row, or at worst case, do 2 per month, or schedule 3 or 4 in a row over a 4 to 5 week period, or some kind of cadence like that. Here's why you do it that way. If I'm reaching out to you and inviting you, hey, listen, I'd like you to come to my workshop, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I would love to come on that day, but I can't. I'm tied up. No worries. 2 weeks later on Thursday, the 19th, we have another one. So the fact that you've got 2 or 3 lined up, it gives you a much higher rate of success of people actually coming, because you have different options. That's why scheduling more. Plus, guess what? Some people wake up on the day of the event, they're sick, things happen, stuff blew up at home, whatever. And so by having multiple scheduled, that's going to help you in a big way. A well-defined message. It's not enough to be vague about, hey, come to my workshop about growing your business. You got to get really clear about what your topic and what your title is going to be. We're going to talk about 3 ways to triple your leads in 2024, right? Get very clean and very clear about what it is it can still be the exact same. Most workshops cover several different areas. So you can have multiple titles and still have the same exact content. But your title and your description needs to be very clear. Let the potential prospect understand, this is for me because of my size of my business. This is what I'm going to walk away with and what I'm going to learn. Very important there, okay? Structure. One of the ways that you create that oxytocin and that dopamine, and more oxytocin than the dopamine for structure, is that you are put together. You have a plan. You start on time. You have a process. Again, there's different ways to do a workshop. You can create a little networking time, Q&As, or whatever. Regardless of what it's going to be, it can't be loose. If it's a 90-minute time together, 60-minute time together, you want a plan, and you need to stick to the plan. Those that are perceived as experts, that they know what they're doing, are the ones that have rigidity in what they do when it comes to an event. Because you look like you're sharp, you look like you're professional, you've done this before, you're on time. Like, wow, they have their life together. People are drawn to that. What can be an aversion is that when you're late, when you start late, when you've got your scatterbrained or you seem scatterbrained, that's not going to help you. You want to make sure you have structure to your event. You want to give time for people and space to connect, especially if you have people in that room that don't know each other. Like, don't make it awkward, especially if you're going to have 8 to 10 people. It's one thing when you have an event where you've got 30 to 40 or 50. You still want time to connect. But especially when you have a small group, everyone kind of needs to get to know each other. Let them introduce themselves, what they do, a little history, and then why they are in the room. Give them the space to connect. Give them the space to be able to say who they are, why they're there. It's going to aid in your ability to bring powerful communication to them in a big way. Call to action. You got to have a strong call to action. In other words, if you put this event on and it was great, people connected, you felt the energy, they felt the energy, and they left, and there's no next step, the whole point and purpose of the event, kind of pointless. So you want to have a strong call to action. Example, we have in our system, in part of what we do is the next step is to take us up on an assessment. We call it the 100K challenge. And so we have a unique way that we kind of, pre-talk about that at the beginning of a workshop and then make that actual call to action request. But bigger than that, you want to have commitment from every person in the room. So if I were to make that call to action, hey, listen, I want to invite you to something that we do. We're going to sit down, we're going to show you, how to find more than $100,000 in your business in 45 minutes or less without you spending an additional dime on marketing or advertising, guaranteed. We call it the 100K challenge. You're going to learn a ton. It's going to really open up your mind to what's possible. And here's my guarantee for you. When we're done, I'm going to give you a 17-page roadmap that's going to show you exactly what you need to do to implement some strategies in your business to find an additional $100,000, maybe $200,000, $300,000, and that you may not realize that sit under your nose. Let's work together. Here's the times I have available. What would work for you? You have to be very clear about your call to action. And those who don't make that commitment of the call to action, you get some type of commitment. Can I follow up with you next Tuesday to see if you're available at some point? Don't let people just leave without getting some type of commitment from them. Look, you've sat there. If this was a free event, you've given them significant value. There's nothing wrong with you being very clear and very concise about that call to action and the request to follow up with them correctly. There you go. So, I give you a lot to think about, but prayerfully, if you've you've been doing workshops, you're like, I'm not sure. Hopefully I added some value to you, some things that were said. Perhaps you're thinking about doing workshops as a part of your lead gen plan. Prayerfully, I've added value to you, giving you some thoughts to think about as you walk this out. Maybe you want to talk about workshops. If you do, go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. And there's some places there you can get some information, and certainly can schedule a time to talk. We'll talk about how this can work for you. Maybe you're already coaching. Maybe you're thinking about coaching. We'll also share and talk about our Done For You system that we have for coaches as well. All right. Until next time, take care.